This is actually the first AEM Developers User Group that is taking place, and we are so looking forward to having you all here today. Santosh, if you could go to the next slide. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we kick off. So we've pinned it in the chat, but if you have not yet done so, we definitely recommend joining the chapter, which we've linked. It's just a great way to stay connected and get alerted when new user groups are posted. And you can also suggest topics that you'd like to hear in future sessions. Today is really for all of you, for you users to connect, share best practices, tips, and tricks. So please do not hold back. Feel free to ask questions in the chat, and we'll definitely leave some time for Q&A. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Santosh, who is the AEM Developers User Group leader.
Hey, thanks, Kathleen. Okay, we'll kick off our session. So about me, I'm Santosh, and I'm working as an AEM developer at one of the topmost organization, which actually deals applications development with pharma and health industry. That's called Click. And I have 6+ years of experience in AEM. So today we'll be going to talk about an OSGI overview and OSGI bundle. So welcome to the session of OSGI. This lecture actually consists of 8 short parts, but today we'll be just covering 2 parts out of them. So after listening to this part, you should be able to understand what OSGI is, name the most important part of the OSGI, and name the OSGI implementation that AEM uses. So OSGI is a platform for development of modular Java applications. The key feature of OSGI is modularity. That is, independent module that can be independently developed, deployed, and executed without conflicts and uninstall. We'll talk about this in next couple of parts. So more precisely, OSGI is a set of specifications that defines the organization of application modules and the runtime environments for the module execution. Those specifications are maintained by organization that's called OSGI Alliance. Many important software companies are member of that alliance. That top level members includes, let's say, Oracle, IBM, and Adobe, of course. And this alliance has website that osgi.org. If you just visit that website, there you can find the specification and Java docs for the platform. The OSGI Alliance actually started its work in 1999. As of now, OSGI Release 8 is available in market. We will concentrate on OSGI Release 7 as that version is used and supported in AEM 6.5 onwards. But you may also check how to use OSGI Release 8 from AEM 6.5 onwards. So OSGI OSGI specification actually defines the API. The API classes and interfaces come as a jar file and Java doc. To work with OSGI, we need an implementation. So we have several API implementations. The most famous are, Apache Felix, and there is one more like Eclipse Equinox, and Adobe AEM uses that Apache Felix in our case. So with an AEM OSGI is used in many well-known products such as, let's say, Jira, Confluence, even Eclipse IDE, and some JBoss application servers. So this is overall about OSGI and where it comes from and alliance, etc. Moving to the next. So just like Java, with its core and enterprise edition, there is a core and enterprise OSGI. They are described in separate specification, but Enterprise OSGI is built on a top of the core. You can see. So let's look at the core OSGI first. The core specification defines three groups of features. The specifications called them architectural layers. Let me describe them briefly, and then we will look at them in details one by one. So in diagram, you can see the first in the lowest is a module layer. This layer defines all isolated modules of all bundles. And second layer is the life cycle for the bundles. It defines the bundle life cycle, that is how the bundles are installed, updated, uninstalled, and you can even start and stop of those bundles. And third layer is the service layer. So it defines services that live in bundles and the service registry where those services are listed. The services allow for interaction between bundles, provide bundle publish their services, and consumer bundle reference them. The container finds this services and binds the provider and consumer bundle. So that's how actually communicate provider bundle and consumer bundles and how they actually reference. So this is overall just a core architectural layer of the OSGI. Moving to the next, Enterprise OSGI defines the feature on top of OSGI. The feature we will be most interested in this called declarative services. That feature actually introduces a concept of components. A Java class that exposes the service interface at a runtime environment, and components are managed by the container. Configurable using properties, they actually obtain the references to other services using dependency injection. So we know how dependency injections references all we do in the day-to-day life. So the developers declare the component in the application code using the XML files or annotations that are used to generate those XML files. If anyone of you remember that how we are annotating those injection properties, so it will at the end generate those in XML files. So another important feature is web application supports. It specifies how the OSGI container runs web applications, which is quite important for us. And also the enterprise OSGI specification defines various other services such as bundle repository, logging, and several others. So OSGI is standard, several specification, and the jar files with the API classes. To use OSGI, one needs an implementation. So Adobe AEM is built on one of the most widely used implementations that's called Apache Felix. So Adobe AEM 6.5 uses a branch of Felix 6.0.2, which is actually implemented along with the OSGI release 6. So this is the part one. We are actually finished. I have just give background information about the OSGI alliances and architectural layer, where it is actually implemented, how we are dealing with. Now, just to summarize, OSGI is a platform. What we actually looked into around. So OSGI is a platform defined by the specifications. So there are core and enterprise OSGI specification. Core OSGI specification defines several architectural layers. Enterprise OSGI defines components, web applications, supports, and various services. So Apache Felix is an OSGI implementation. Felix implements both core and enterprise OSGI features. So that's all for part one. As I said, I have divided those into two different parts. One is about the OSGI overview and OSGI bundle. So that's all for part one. So moving to the next part as of now. So it will be more practical. So we'll get familiar the first architectural layer of the OSGI, as you see on the shown on the already on the diagram. So the concepts of the bundle, detailed concepts of the bundle. So OSGI bundles. Now, I hope everyone gets into it about the OSGI overview. Now let's talk about the part two, that is OSGI bundles, and we'll get familiar with the OSGI bundle mostly. So after listening to this part, you should be able to describe what OSGI bundles are and what problem they solve. Build an OSGI bundles and deploy it to AEM. We'll be actually going to do that practically. Again, back to the same diagram, just we are focusing on the modules. So bundles are OSGI modules. That is the lower architectural layer of the OSGI. The bundles run in OSGI environments. That is how the container is called in OSGI environment. Now, let's see how what exactly and how the problem bundle solves. So the problem that are common to non-modular Java applications, or you can say rather one problem describes in three different ways. So in terms of an ordinary Java application has a so-called flat class path. If you know that how in ordinary Java applications we'll be going to define some flat class path. That means if we specify a library in the class path, its public classes are visible to all the other classes in the application. That means two things. So first, it is not possible to always to hide a package or public class from other application modules. There is no way to prevent using, for example, a low-level persistence class in the presentation layer that can lead to the spaghetti code. The code with chaotic dependencies between classes that are actually hard to sort out. But in terms of bundles, it solves that by controlling the package visibility. It is about the first one. And the second one, it is not possible to use two different versions of library, which can be the case in complex project, but the application cannot use two different versions of class. When there are two versions of a class, it will use one that is loaded first. So bundle solves this problem as well. One bundle can have version 1 of some classes, and another bundle can have version 2 of that same class, and they both run at the same time. So here is how it solves the problem about OSGI bundles. Moving to the next. So the OSGI approach to solving the problem that we just described is using bundles. A bundle is a set of classes with an additional descriptors. I'll show you how it will look like, additional descriptor file that's called manifest.mf, how it will actually create when we deploy and build the bundle. So moving to the next, a bundle is a set of classes with additional descriptors. The point is that each bundle is loaded by separate class loader, and the bundle classes are not visible outside the bundle by default. So bundle is packed and deployed as a jar file with an additional descriptor. So that descriptor explicitly lists the packages that are visible outside the bundle, that is exported outside. So we have to define which packages you wanted to actually export outside of this bundle. Classes in the other packages are not visible outside, even if they are public. So it is actually by default action. And also the bundle descriptors explicitly list the packages used by the bundle. So that is one that are imported. As you have probably realized by now, it gives the developers one more way to ensure the application modularity. So you have modules. For each module, you specify what it makes visible outside, and what packages outside it uses. So moving to next, now let's get into the AEM specifics. That's overall about the OSGI bundles and what problems we solve as of now. So now we are actually looking into the AEM specifics. In AEM projects, bundles are built using Maven bundle plugin. That plugin generates the OSGI specific information and places in the jar file. So AEM uses bundles as a part of AEM application. That means that the bundle is expected to be located in the application structure, there is so-called install folder of the application. So let me actually show you while switching into the CRXT Lite. So here is, I opened a clean AEM instance. That is CRXD, and here under apps, you can see apps where the applications are stored. And here is the application structure. That's my site package. And here you can see the install folder. And this folder, there is actually the bundle jar you can see here. Now, when Maven builds the application package, it places it under install folder. This folder name is, we can say special, because AEM monitors application folder name install, and if a jar file is added or maybe changed or maybe even deleted, it performs the correspondence actions in the OSGI environments. So let's say if you have deleted, so it will get actually deleted from the applications level. Okay, so this is overall about how the bundles and where it is actually getting installed. Now let's take a look at AEM project. I have just created an AEM project using Maven AEM projects archetype version 36. So it is actually somewhat recommended for AEM 6.5. Also, I imported that project into my IDE. The project consists of a few modules. You can see here all code, ID test, and UI apps, etc. And this time we actually are interested in the module called Core. Okay, that's actually responsible for module. It also that module contains a bunch of Java classes of various types. Now let's check what kind of various types we do have, like a servlet, filters, and a listeners. So this is what our OSGI bundle will be built from. So in the core modules form XML, if you can check here, this is actually the core modules form XML, and there is a Maven bundle plugin. You can see here this Maven bundle plugin, and that is actually a list of build plugins. And this plugin contains several instructions that shows how to build the bundle jar. These are some executions and instructions plugins we have here in the core. Let's also take a look into the module UI apps. It contains the structure of the AEM application that will be deployed. From that structure, a package will be built, and the OSGI bundle will be a part of that package. So let's even check this, form.xml. So here is the form. We can see that content package Maven plugin in the list of the plugin. So we don't need the rest of the. Let's actually look into the parent form XML. Here you can see all of the modules. So we are actually not interested, in the rest of the modules for now. So let me comment them out. So let's deploy this using profile auto install package. I'm actually deploying it on the server. and deploy it to the AEM. Yeah. Now, so now it says build success. That means that the package is deployed to AEM, and AEM detected the deployment of bundle, and it actually installed in the OSGI environment. So how we actually check that? So to check that, let's go to the bundle console. Let me switch back to the bundle console. Yeah, here I'm going to just refresh this page and let's try to search my site. Yep, here you can see the bundles is actually installed, which we actually deployed from our profile ID. So now let's look closer at the bundle jar that Maven actually built. For that, let me switch to the file manager. Yeah. So when you actually deploy your, build and deploy your project, so in Target, there is a jar file. So under that jar, you can see that's meta INF, and that meta INF has this manifest file. Let me try to open this. Just a sec. Yeah. So here is properties that are usually placed in jar files, and also a bunch of additional properties. Those additional properties are what is called the bundle descriptors. So these all are properties. Now let's look at those properties. So bundle name and description, these are actually ones are trivial, and the bundle name is what you see in the bundle console, what we have actually looked before that when you see the list of bundles. So now there are two more properties. That's the bundle symbolic name and the version, these two. So the pair of symbolic name and the version uniquely identifies the bundle. The value of this bundle version, you can see here, is by default, and they came from the project version in the modules. That's form.xml, and it is converted into the major, minor, micro version format. You can actually easily override it into the Maven bundle plugin instructions. Here is actually important things that I can say it's a key takeaway for you guys. It's if two bundles have the same symbolic name but different versions, they are considered different versions of the same bundle. But in AEM, it does not actually run multiple versions of the same bundle of the same time. So make a note here. If you have a bundle installed and then installed bundle with the same symbolic name and different version, the installed bundle will be replaced with the new one. So let me switch back to the slides again. So that's overall about, we have looked into the OSGI bundle manifest and all other parts, how it looks like, and after building and deploying this project application, how it will create the bundle and target for folders about jar files, manifest MF. We even looked sub descriptor properties also. So now to summarize, bundles are OSGI modules. Physically, they are jar files with the additional descriptors. Each bundle's classes are loaded using a separate class loader. So there will be a class loader diagram, how actually it works in depth. So we'll be looking into the next sessions, probably in a couple of weeks or maybe in a month. A bundle is identified by the symbolic name and the version. In AEM, bundles are part of AEM applications. Bundles are usually built using Maven bundle plugin. So that plugin actually is responsible to build this, project, create the bundles. And those bundles are installed in packages that's called under install folder. We already seen that part. And AEM allows only one version of the bundle at a time. And in AEM has several consoles for working with the bundles. For example, system console, that's Apache Felix console. We've seen that. Yeah. So in the next part, we probably will look, package import and export in OSGI bundles, and how will be maybe even bundle life cycles, how they are actually dealing with each other, everything. Yeah. So that's all for now. So we looked into the OSGI overview and OSGI bundles, two different paths. I hope it helps you. You might understood. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Santosh. We actually got some questions already posted in the chat. We do have a very large group, so it might be easier if people want to post their questions in the chat, and I can just read it out to you. If that works for everyone, we have one question about what is the difference between model and service from an OSGI bundle point of view?
Is it a Maven service?
It's not about Maven service. It's about a component versus service. What is in OSGI bundle? What is the
OSGI
difference?
components? OSGI components and the services.
Yeah, correct. OSGI component versus OSGI services.
Okay. So OSGI components is basically we, as you see in the diagram, we actually build at the module levels. That's you can see here that when we actually create any components using the OSGI, and we have to use some additional annotations, descriptors that we'll be going to build. But that is actually responsible, components. To when we create the components, it actually sits into the module level, and services is actually communicators between the components and OSGI. Let's say you have created the components, and that component is responsible, or let's say, reference. When you actually refer to one of the services, then that is responsible to response, whatever it is requested by the components. I can say actually the components has, you can refer to, the component can actually refer to the services, but services actually cannot refer to any other components, but it can refer to another services. That is actually the main, differences here, components and services.
Thank you, Santosh. Another question from Srini. Is it best practice to use snapshot name in the jar?
Yeah, it is. In actually nowadays, it is always best practices to have this, snapshot, because whenever in our local environment, when you deploy or build any applications, that's actually how we work. That's absolutely fine without even having the snapshot versions in your local. But when you actually deploy on different environments in real time working projects, when you actually deploy those on different environments, let's say staging environment, production, pre-production. So at the time, Jenkins automatically actually, increase the version. So that's how actually it is required for, updating snapshot versions on the specific environments. So it is always recommended to have the snapshots with version.
Great, thank you. Another question from Satish. Are we able to get a copy of this presentation? Oh, yes. It will be posted on the YouTube channel that is also included in this chat. So let's move on to another question. how to unload existing version and load other versions. Is there a mechanism called as priority? What are the implications at runtime?
So when we actually, deploy any kind of a similar projects version. So as you've seen here, so AEM actually responsible to run only, I have shown you here, it is actually responsible to run only one applications. Like if you have the same version, but there's different symbolic names, then it is actually runs only one, version. But nowadays, actually, I see one of the concepts called, let's say, parallel something. No, actually, it's actually on 6.5.11. There is one more concept called the run parallel, bundles. So you can actually run those two different bundles at the same time. Let's say your older version of the same symbolic name and the latest version of the same symbolic name that is actually run in the CQ background. So that's in AEM. So both actually you can run even, but answering to your question, yeah. So it is always when you try to, deploy the same version of the bundle, it will always override. The latest one will be picked up by the AEM.
Okay, great. I don't see any more questions in the chat. Does anybody else have a question for Santosh?
I have one more question, Santosh. The question is like, in this extend to that question, so is always in a singleton OSGI bundle?
Yes, it is singleton.
Even
So
case
that's
of
why
the components also, it's in a singleton, right? In HDL,
yes.
if you refer as many times as it will return the
Yeah.
same object.
Yeah, when you actually, execute any applications, when request goes to the bundle, so at the time, if you can see that request is always, synchronized version, those are actually synchronized. So that's actually that how it is, because it is because of the singleton architecture of these components and the OSGI. So it is a singleton architectural layer with the OSGI components, services.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
I hope you got your answer.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? We have a little more time left. You can post them in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and
I have a question which may be a little unrelated to today, but can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we are working on migrating our AEM instance from a low version to the 6.5, right? But because in the past multiple teams worked and they may have configured multiple custom, pieces here, right? Is there an easy way to extract the custom configuration done on an AEM instance?
So
is there a
custom
filter you
configuration,
can run or something of that sort?
I don't think so. We do have any tool to extract some custom configurations on the application level, but you might actually compare with the compare with the existing code base and have a look at what exactly configurations we do required. And I believe there is a one more AEM modernization tool. I'm not sure whether that supports these custom configurations as well, but you can actually, it's actually worth to check with that. But when you actually says that custom configurations, you have to have look into the existing code base, what configurations, because those are having PID, factory PID. So those you will get only by looking into this, who actually has implemented those things. Let's say, vendor, you can, being a vendor, you can have a look all those configurations and have to migrate those things, looking into them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's a
I know
lack
it's
of
a pain, yeah.
documentation and other stuff.
Yeah. Considering this, but it's actually worth to check with the AEM modernization tool that might help you detecting those configurations, custom configurations. but not sure, honestly.
If you have the link handy, are you able to post it in the chat or maybe post somewhere for me to refer?
Yeah, I can check. I can check those. Maybe you can actually connect me on, this platform. Is registering this platform. You will have some, conversation. We can
Sure.
have some conversation, and yeah, we can discuss further.
Oh, thanks, Santosh. This is very helpful. Thank you for setting it up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh. So anyone else have any questions before we wrap up?
Hi, am I audible? Hello?
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay. Yeah, I raised the question about versions and existence of multiple versions in the AEM runtime. So what happens if, for example, my bundle has two versions and two versions are existing at the same time, and it has the same service in both the versions, and then how the runtime will pick up which version service at the runtime, and that is question number one. And question number two, is there any way for a developer to choose particular versions service than other version service?
Okay. In that case, let me show you one thing that's called, this actually is my blog. So there is one, I guess it is in import export. Yeah, here you can see this actually the similar concepts what you are actually questioning. So similar concept I want to actually demonstrate, a practical way how it works and how it will actually pick up which version it is picking up from the AEM. So you can have a look into this article. It says, so whenever you actually deploy any latest package or bundle, so what I did in that, so I have created bundle A, bundle B, bundle C, and D. So four different. So as you said, so two different services, consumer one and consumer class two. When you actually deploy two different core bundles, so let's say in here package X, that's a 1.01, and package X 2.1. So two different versions. Okay, and even I have created two different different symbolic name but same versions, and that is actually referring always to the latest one which you have actually installed. So the services, even if you are having the same services in two different bundles, it will always actually pick up from the latest one. So AEM actually does not. Okay. Go ahead.
So yeah, as you said, like AEM will pick up only latest version of the bundle. Then what is the need to install the old versions in the runtime?
So if you wanted to pick up, you mean you wanted to pick up all the functionality from the existing, like older package, older bundle? Yeah. So in that case,
my question is, if AEM always presents you the latest version of the service, okay, then what is the need for AEM to maintain the legacy versions in the runtime?
In practical scenario, I did not see any who is actually having legacy version of the bundle on the same platform. Honestly, I'm not sure whether nowadays maybe it depends on the custom project. So if they requires the legacy version of this project, but there might be a chances that the latest bundle is also referring to the older version of the bundle. Let's say services which are actually exporting from the legacy version of the bundle. But as I said, if you have a bundle installed and then install bundle with the same symbolic name and the different version of the installed bundle, that will be actually replaced to the new one always. AEM actually does not support the multiple version of the same bundle at the same time.
Okay.
Hope you get it.
Yeah.
But you can actually, it's actually worth to check this, at
exactly.
the end. You can actually have a look. I have actually demonstrated with the 4 different bundles, creating and deployed on same instance, same time, same version, and you can check the results over there. That's worth checking.
Sure. Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, looks like James has a question.
My apologies. I do not have a question. I have a touch keyboard that keeps putting my hand up. I apologize.
No worries, and thanks for posting the link in the chat. Anyone else?
Yeah, one question I have is with AEM as a cloud service, will something change on the OSGI? Or it's going to be the same as in previous versions?
Okay. Honestly, I did not actually had a chance to work on the AEM, as a cloud service, but I'm actually, running some feedback projects by my own and trying to learn what changes and what all things. But what I believe is we do have least control over bundles and some consoles. So no idea, honestly. So I need to even work on that. Sorry for that.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all I know.
Good. Thanks for your understanding.
Well, thanks everyone for all the questions. We still have 50 minutes allotted to the meeting. So kind of last shout out for any other questions.
I have a question.
Right.
So recently I went to develop something which requires multi-threading. So the thing is, like, we ingest some data from SFDC, and it contains so many records. So instead of one thread to solve the problem, I created a thread pool, and I delegated these tasks to multiple threads at the same time. So each record of the partner is independent. It doesn't have any dependency on other information. So I just delegated this thing. So overall, when I was working on this solution, I had a lot of confusion. Why? Because when it comes to services of OSGI, every service is a singleton, and I could not understand properly how the multi-threading will affect the singleton concept. Why? Because it is like everything is shared context, right? So how, in general, multi-threading will work in OSGI services?
So multi-threading is always, as we know, there's services and OSGI components and the services are actually referring and exporting and importing those things in between components and the services. So those are considering as a singleton execution wise. Those are actually singleton way, but when it comes to multi-threading, you are calling to the let's say you have one of the executions. You have some of the requests or records. Those are actually calling to the OSGI services or the components. From the multi-threading pointing to the singleton. So those are automatically binding to the service descriptors. So we do have one more in the file manager. If you see that, that's I need to check. I guess it's in meta INF. So if you can see this, would you have bindings with the when you are actually using annotations? Let's check. It is not actually showing me properly. But this is actually, if you see that each configurations of those have this XML. So each component, what I wanted to say, each component and the services have their own, XML descriptor file. So it is responsible for which services is responsible. So it is by default converting those by automatically actually handling those multi-threaded concept into the singleton, and which is this XML configurations is responsible for looking into which one has to be called. So that will be happening based on these annotations and XML configurations, which we are annotating those in components and the services to the components and services. So we don't need to take care externally, contact between multi-threading and the singleton classes. Those will be automatically done in between because of these XML configurations. At the end, that is, we are doing this annotations with the services and components.
Okay. So, yeah, my question is mainly based on the state sharing between these multiple threads. So, in my observation, what I came to know is any variable which is at the object level, that should be fine. But if it is a class level object, like for example static objects or something, so then there will be a problem. And most of the parameters that you pass to your service from the external interface as a method parameter, then that is also fine, right? Because every method will have its own copy of value. Yeah, so there is no collision. But if you maintain the common status at the class level, then there will be a problem. And one more observation I have done is any context level objects, like for example resource resolvers, query builders, all these things internally they are multi-threaded, so they support multi-thread. So I never faced any problem. I passed resource resolver to all my threads, and each thread has its own state, and everything worked properly. Why? Because all the AEM level framework level classes are nicely shielded from multi-threading headaches. So all that you need to, as a developer, all that you need to do is like you just need to concentrate on. You just need to analyze how
multiple services, components, So
your service.
So do you did you actually created any util classes or util package so that everything actually sits those common services and components are actually sits under util classes? Let's say, for example, while referring to the resource resolver, if you want the same, if you have already written the same logic. So, for example, multi-threaded, all other components and services are using, which are actually using the same, logic for referring to, resource service resolver, factory. Those things I would actually keep into the utility classes so that I can just refer always to that from that utility classes. Let's say utility package I have created and everything, like the common logic I actually used to keep in util classes so that I can use to just refer them, not to call every time. Or rather,
that's what we did. Our main business logic, we created a callable object, and we triggered that callable object from the service itself. But not directly. So we used thread pool manager of AEM, and using that thread pool, we triggered all the threads, and all the common functionality we maintained in a utility class. But again, it is a very dangerous concept. When you use utility class, it's very dangerous. Why? Because
static.
Again, if you maintain the exactly. So we completely relied upon method parameters basically. So that's how we shielded all the multi-threading things. So when you pass the values to the method, then every thread will have its own set of
its own
values.
call again.
That. So that's how we shielded everything. But when I was struggled initially, I was struggled with the framework classes like resource resolver and all. So I was skeptical about when I first time used these objects, and with multi-threading concepts, my mind was wild like anything. But later it came through nicely. So those framework classes are you just blindly can believe. All that you need to focus on your services with respect to multi-threading.
Internally, what release 6, like as we have AEM is release 6 annotations, those OSGI annotations. You can prefer those documentations whenever it comes to confusion between how it will internally handle. You can just check those OSGI release documentations and go through it. But yeah, idea behind this is always I would even prefer to that's even I read is the best practice always to keep those util classes under the util package and refer them rather than calling every time, or avoid boilerplate code in your similar classes or multiple classes. That's good though, but it's eventually good that you learn something and avoid those situations.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, thank you both. We're almost at the hour, so I think we have time just for one last question if there's anyone.
One more question, if you don't mind, and thank you, Santosh. This has been very helpful. Is the number of OSGI bundles important? Is there a best practice? Is it generally better to keep the OSGI bundles in lower number, or does that matter?
It doesn't really matter as you actually enhance or add additional features to your bundles. So that comes to incremented version of your bundle. So it doesn't really matter how numbers big and small. So it really doesn't matter. So that comes to the snapshot versions. So if you remember that I shown you major, minor, and micro versions of those formats, it will be converted in those formats. So to answer your questions, it doesn't really matter. Hope you get it.
Well, thank you. I guess we could. Yeah,
sorry, I was just going to add to that. Like, is the deployment time like directly proportional to the number of bundles? Like, I mean, what I'm asking is like, is it recommended to consolidate the bundles into less number of packages, or like, I mean, I know you said it doesn't impact the performance, but from the deployment standpoint, does the time for deployment drastically reduce if the number of bundles are lesser?
Yeah, it is actually. So if you have a look how actually those core bundles, you can check here. We do have multiple, modules and having 3 bundles at the end. So one is if you check here in CRXD, so you can, these are actually one jar file at the end. So this is the only one bundle altogether. So whichever at the core level, those are actually built with the AEM application. That's a UI application that again, embedding. So concept of embedding these multiple jar files, clubbing together. So you can embed those to one another and deploy it onto the server. So I would prefer always to, if you do have multiple, different jar files, so those you can embed into the one and deploy it. So rather than having multiple different bundles, but again, it depends on the project to project requirement, how they really want those bundles to be deployed. Or there might, let's say for example, if one bundle is actually exporting something and that same bundle is, referencing some services from another bundle. So that that actually depends on the requirements. So this, if they really wants to keep in one separate bundle, this logic or these concepts, whatever it is, and the second concept, they wanted to keep it in separately, completely to the another bundle. So that's again to the requirement. But ideally, it should be always clubbed to one of the bundle to reduce, as you said, to reduce performance. This one, performance of the deployment process. And again, there are some few other concepts also, to check again test reports, getting test reports from the one bundle rather than multiple bundles.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Thank you. If you still have any questions, so you can actually reach out to me, via this AEG platform. So we do have, we can actually communicate. I'm always even available to, LinkedIn, and when I'm actually contributing something with this AEM community channel, you can reach out to me anytime. I'll try my best to, answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Santosh. It was a great presentation. Thanks for hosting the meeting, and thanks to everyone who joined today and asked all the great questions. If you want to stay in touch for future events, don't forget to subscribe to the chapter page. And also you can find the recording. You'll be able to find the recording on the YouTube channel. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day or evening. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thanks. See you guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.